electric skateboards, and then there's Summerboard, this weird looking thing with motorized caster wheels underneath. I first saw it as a sponsored post on my Instagram feed, and the way riders in the video move through the city as if they're snowboarding down a mountain caught my attention immediately. I had to try it. I've been riding it around the past few weeks, and right off the bat I'll tell you, it is not easy to learn. It is wildly fun though once everything clicks and you get used to it. Stick with me because in this video I'm going to tell you about Summerboard, show you my journey as I learned to ride it, and tell you what I think now that I'm more comfortable. If you're interested in checking it out for yourself, I'll leave a link in the description below. Now, let's get to it. This is the current version of Summerboard, the SBX. This one's actually brand new and has never been ridden. That's because Summerboard was kind enough to lend me two boards, one that I can photograph and another one that can get beat up while I learn to ride. Here are the specs as listed on Summerboard's website, but I'm not really here to test these claims. Partly because I'm too scared to take this up to 27 miles per hour. I tend to keep it under 15, but mainly because this isn't meant to be ridden like a typical electric skateboard. I'll explain why. I wouldn't think of this as a means of transportation any more than a snowboard, and that's exactly the kind of experience Summerboard is going for. It's meant to be ridden with skill and style, not to get you from point A to point B as quickly and comfortably as possible. And there's definitely a unique kind of fun to that. The SBX's battery is different from other electric skateboards in that it sits on top of the deck, which frees up the bottom side for board slides if you can do that sort of thing. They're easy to swap out, and I like how light and flat they are, so you can easily slide one into a backpack if you need a spare on a longer ride. The controller itself is nothing too exciting. There's just this one knob on You just have the one knob on top which will control your motor, and a display which will tell you your speed and battery status. On the bottom there's a micro USB port for charging and two buttons for power and for changing your units of speed. It does have a rugged feel to it too, which is good because it'll likely fly out of your hand a couple times while you're learning to ride the SBX. Now let me tell you about learning to ride Summerboard. There's a great series of training videos on the website that will give you exercises to learn to ride in 3 sessions. I watched them all and they were great, very helpful. But before I did that, I was fortunate enough to get some one-on-one coaching from a guy that knows a thing or two about Summerboard. All right, so we're here with Summerboard founder Aaron Aders. And before we get on a Summerboard for the first time today, what does a complete noob like me need to know?
So you have snowboarding experience, that's helpful. Just ride it like a snowboard. And if you don't have any snowboarding experience, I would say it's like learning how to snowboard. So just take it easy, one step at a time, and go slow.
Awesome, well let's give it a try.
Just feel that slide. So
I thought that since I already knew how to skateboard and snowboard that I would pick this up with ease. Boy, was I wrong. I spent about 30 to 45 minutes riding this thing for a few feet and then falling off, over and over again. It was frustrating and honestly kind of embarrassing considering I've known how to skate and snowboard for over 20 years now. But I was determined to get it. Then after a quick water break, something clicked and I managed to make it from one end of the parking lot all the way to the other.
Yeah, dude.
Feeling proud and pretty exhausted, I decided to take the board home and keep practicing on my own. My second time riding Summerboard was still a bit of a struggle at the beginning, but as the day went on, I was showing more and more progress, even taking some slow turns. I was starting to feel confident, maybe too confident. Yeah, that one hurt. But by the end of the day, I was able to do full laps around that parking lot. Just like the training video suggested, by my third session, I was able to stay on the board much longer as I cruised through my neighborhood. Finally, Summerboard was becoming fun and less intimidating. Which brings me to now. I've got a few more hours of riding under my belt and I'm starting to feel pretty comfortable. Cruising down the street feels natural to me and I'm able to handle trickier terrain like rough roads or driveways. The key to riding Summerboard is to balance on those center wheels, very much like a scooter. The other 4 wheels are essentially there to act as the board's edge, much like when you lean on the outside edge of a snowboard to carve into the snow. The outside wheels of the Summerboard are there to catch the road to keep you from spinning out of control. When done correctly, it really does feel like you're snowboarding. If you're already comfortable on a skateboard or snowboard, you should be able to pick this up in 3 sessions like I did. Otherwise, it may take you longer to build that balance. A word of warning though, like learning any extreme sport, this does come with a certain level of risk. You're moving at pretty high speeds and oftentimes facing awkward directions. I mean, you saw some of the falls that I took, and those weren't even the worst ones. I never got seriously injured learning to ride Summerboard, but I definitely got some scrapes and had some close calls. Let's just say I'm glad I was wearing my helmet. My goal was to learn to ride the SBX well enough to get a good idea of who it's for, as well as be able to ride it on camera without falling. Now it's just a matter of how good I want to get at it, as well as start experimenting with tricks. However, I have to give this one back to Aaron, then let's talk about if it's worth buying one.
All right, Aaron, I think all that's left is to learn how to do a 360. You think you can teach me?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sweet.
A 360 spin is all about balance over the centers. Just get low, throw yourself into it, keep that accelerator going, and just hold on.
All right, seems simple enough. First 360s in the bag. Aaron, how'd that look?
That was awesome. You just get it around and you keep going. There's nothing like that feeling. Now you just gotta work on it.
How about before we call it a day, we go out for a ride?
Yeah, let's shred.
All right.
The SBX starts at $1,600, which includes the board, the remote, and a charger. There are some bundles you can buy that add accessories you'd probably want, like footholds, which helps keep you on the board a little better, or freshies, which are these wheels that add extra shock absorption for rougher roads, but that can get the price all the way up to $2,200, including tax and shipping. So no, it's not that cheap. Comparing Summerboard to other electric skateboards out there is like apples to oranges. It's very much its own thing that serves its own purpose. If you're looking for something to get you around town, then this likely isn't for you. There are better, more affordable options out there, and frankly, Summerboard is difficult to learn and requires some effort. But that's also what makes it really cool. You can have a great time riding around without a destination in mind. Learning to ride Summerboard is like learning an entirely new sport, and you can actually get a decent workout. Even though there's an electric motor to propel you, you're constantly moving as you maneuver. Typically within 15 to 20 minutes, I would be drenched in sweat. And on the last ride that I tracked, my Apple Watch said that my average heart rate was 137 beats per minute. That's about the same as if I were to go on a jog. Don't get me wrong though, the SBX has the range and speed to keep up with other electric skateboards. The battery always outlasted my endurance, and it went plenty fast enough for my comfort level, and then some. It just depends on if you're looking for a skateboard to get you where you're going or to be the activity itself. So what do you think? Is Summerboard going to be the next Olympic sport? Let me know in the comments, as well as any questions you might have about it. And while you're there, I'd appreciate a nice thumbs up for this video. I mean, come on, I gave my blood, sweat, and tears to make it. It's the least you can do. Also, consider subscribing to CNET if you haven't already. We've got great tech videos just about every day of the week. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.